Hi, friends. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Katie, and welcome to Okay, But Did You Know? A podcast where we talk about the TV and media that we love with a friend who's never seen it before. Today, we are discussing the movie Burnt from 2015, directed by John Wells and written by Stephen Knight. The main character, Adam Jones, is a Michelin star chef trained by his mentor, Jean-Luc, until his drug addiction and behavior destroyed his career as well as the restaurant. He exiles himself for 3 years in New Orleans by shucking 1,000,000 oysters while he sobers up. After his millionth oyster, he heads to London to restart his career and earn his third Michelin star. He goes to an old colleague, Tony Bellardi, the hotel manager at the Langham Hotel, and after some forced negotiating, convinces him to help him open a new restaurant. He runs into old friends turned frenemies, a new therapist, and hires an exceptional sous chef that he also happens to fall in love with. After dealing with the difficulty that is building the right menu, staying sober, and falling in love, the Michelin men arrive. Only one of Adam's colleagues from his life before sabotages their chance at the star as his revenge. Adam is distraught and uses again and finds solace in an unlikely friend. They luckily find out the Michelin men weren't actually from Michelin, and Adam finally decides to trust his staff and work on himself. So Noah, I see I'm already messing up.
There we go.
John Wells. There's a reason I was starting to say Noah. It's just my brain doing what it does. So John Wells used to actually work for ER.
Oh, okay.
So
I was like, does that have to do with the
he
pit?
worked with Noah Wiles. We've been watching The Pit a lot, and I really loved that connection because I did not know this until I got the DVD. I borrowed the DVD from the library. I'm sad to say the commentary and I were not working. My DVD player is really weird. We're looking at getting a new one, and the audio on our soundbar with the DVD player just won't go high enough. And trying to watch, I watched it, of course, to do this, but when I went to try and watch with commentary, I couldn't hear anything, and the DVD player's in the living room, and so anyway, and then it wouldn't work in my CPU. I actually tried. The DVD just would not play in my computer. It showed me files instead of instead.
Interesting.
I was like, what's going on? But thankfully, there's actually still a lot of stuff that they had in the special features. They had a whole just thing that they made talking about the movie. It was I want to say about 30, 45 minutes long. So they had a whole series of interviews with the different cast members, which is really cool because I got to see more insight on Bradley Cooper and his processing when it comes to acting and the way he views the world and acting in itself, which is really enjoyable. But this is a very star-studded cast. This cast is you got Bradley Cooper as Adam Jones. I think he does a phenomenal job in the role because he plays an asshole, and you definitely don't like him. And then we have Sienna Miller as Helene Sweeney, and that is the sous chef that he recruits. Omar Sy as Michel, which I love him, and everything I've seen him in, I've loved. He is a phenomenal actor. Then you have Daniel Bruhl, who plays Tony Bellardi, and he's in everything.
Okay.
Actually, in an interview, he discusses a little bit about all the different languages that he speaks because he's Austrian.
Oh,
he's Austrian, but he speaks German, French. He speaks a lot of languages. Because one of the interview questions was, how do you process that? You speak so I think he said 5 or 8 languages. And he goes into this whole thing because he's also Spanish. So he's like, I'm Spanish. I talk with my hands. He's like, but I can't do that in this. And then we have Ricardo Scamarcio. I'm not sure. That's Max, his grill chef. We have Sam Keeley as David, the young chef who he recruits. Alicia Vikander, who is Anne Marie, his former girlfriend. Matthew Rhys plays Montgomery Reese.
Okay, that was a case of I saw him, I know his face. I could not tell you his name.
Uma Thurman as a random lesbian who's also a food critic.
That was hello, Uma Thurman. Uma Thurman's character is a lesbian.
We have Emma Thompson as the therapist.
I would have recognized her voice anywhere.
I also feel that if Emma Thompson were my therapist, all my issues would be solved.
No, I literally wrote Emma Thompson could be my therapist, and I would tell her literally everything. As I wrote that down.
Yep. Lily James as Sarah, David's girlfriend, and Sarah Green as Caitlin, the fine dining server that is constantly with Bellardi. I love her.
Her accent was fantastic.
Her accent's fantastic. She's beautiful. But I just want to give you a couple of fun facts to give you an idea, and then we'll really get into notes and talk about the movie because I have so many lines and thoughts written down. Because I have watched this movie so many times. I watched it for the first time with Steven a few years ago. We're coming up on our 6-year anniversary, so I couldn't tell you when. I had a baby somewhere in that, so my memory sucks.
Gotcha.
But Bradley Cooper actually explained in many interviews that he prepared for his character, Adam Jones, by analyzing the real-life behavior of 4 top chefs. These are like Michelin star, highest of high chefs. And the first one being Marco Pierre White. This is the chef known as the first celebrity chef. He is the first British chef awarded with 3 Michelin stars.
Okay.
Then we have Gordon Ramsay, of course. He was actually, he's one of the most famous chefs in the world, and he was actually an executive producer on this movie. We have Claire Smythe. She's an Irish chef who currently has 3 Michelin stars, or at the time this was written. I think she's got more by now, because Gordon Ramsay at the time this happened didn't have as many, and he has 17. Gordon Ramsay has 17 Michelin stars. Now, keep in mind, these are extremely hard to get.
Yeah.
She had 3. And then we have Marcus Waring. He's a British chef. He's had, at the time that this article was written, it was 2 Michelin stars. I'm sure he has more now. But he actually was their consultant and was on set.
Oh, okay.
So they had a Michelin star chef, not only as an executive producer, but also literally in, like, there every day with them. Adam mentions that the chef that taught him everything in Paris, calling him Jean-Luc. People believe the name is an homage to the French chef Jean-Luc Rabinel. My French is rusty. He earned 2 Michelin stars in 2009. But the coolest thing about this movie is that was a real kitchen. So the kitchen you first see at the Langham was the Langham's kitchen. They did go to England and they shot in that kitchen, but when they remodeled the kitchen, that is a soundstage. So they went in and completely remodeled it, or did their own kitchen. Everything is functioning in that kitchen, to the point Marcus Waring, when he saw it, was like, I want this kitchen. I'm jealous. I would like to take this kitchen and take it back with me. Like, it's such a good kitchen. But yeah, he was their consultant. Marcus Waring actually trained with Gordon Ramsay and taught and worked on set to make sure everything was authentic. He treated the actors as if they were in a kitchen. They all trained with him. They had 8 to 9 chefs as well on staff that worked alongside in scenes. So when you're watching the movie, you have your actors that are doing everything, but everyone else in the background are chefs.
Well, The Pit did that as well, with, like, basically anyone in the background that's not a speaking role, that's a medical professional, is a medical professional.
And which is really, really good. But I learned, through watching everything, that the chef the director says a little bit about, like, the authenticity, because when I did look at some of the reviews for this, a lot of people were like, oh, it's too cliche, it's too this. Every chef was trained, and there was even a point I saw that Bradley Cooper worked many they didn't say exactly how many, it just says many shifts with Gordon Ramsay. So he actually, like, they trained under Waring. He literally would go in stage. Like, they were cooking. When you are watching this, they're cooking. And he tried to explain that what they did was, there's this long thing I have written out from an interview from the director, and I think it just explains everything better than I ever could. But he also talks about the arrogance as well, because that is very prevalent in chef culture.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to read this to you. It's a little bit long, but I think coming straight from him, it'll make more sense. To respond to the arrogance question, I think it is about artists and craftspeople who have spent years becoming good at something, who care desperately about the craft and want to make sure the passion is about making certain that that craft is actually carried forward. And that's where we were trying to do in the kitchen. So we spent a lot of time trying to do it and trying to design it in such a way so each scene was designed in advance with what was actually going to be on the pass, what tickets were going to be up above the pass, what mise was actually in every drawer. Every pan was designed in advance and then prepped in advance by their chefs that were in the kitchen, so that we came in to shot and to place ourselves into it and sort of figured it out. They already knew what they were doing. So a lot of choreography is basically, we didn't plan shots around and ask them to move. We planned what they did and then put the camera where we could be in. So everything you're seeing is authentic. They actually made like 100 to 115 plates like a day. So the chefs that they had working in the kitchen, the actual chefs, not the actors, would come in, they would prep everything. There was an actual menu. They had everything that they needed. They would set up the full kitchen, and the actors actually learned how to prep, like actually cook these dishes, and they would run it to make sure they did it. And then they would put the camera where they could so that they could see it.
I like that style of cinematography because it's more authentic that way, rather than, because, like, that was something that one of the actors from Once Upon a Time, she's like, someone asked her like what the difference between film sets like in the UK versus in the United States are, and her response was like, generally speaking, in the UK, like those productions tend to like, we do our blocking and our rehearsing and figure that out, and they figure out where the camera goes based on that. But in the United States, more often than not, they already have their camera placements and you slide into that. So it's really refreshing to see a product that didn't do that, because it's more authentic. I agree. I think it's more authentic to do the other way around.
But then on top of that, to make it even more authentic, you got to think they're doing take after take after take. So they're getting more and more frustrated, just like a chef does when they're in the shift. When they're in the middle of the weeds, middle of that shift, you just get more and more frustrated. So yes, there's yelling and screaming because you are in the weeds. That's just how it functions. That's how a kitchen functions. There's not really much changing that. You see how it kind of changes once he starts working on himself, but there really isn't much to changing that, because it's a high-paced job. But there's a lot of passion there because it's a high-paced job surrounding cooking and food, and it's an art. And so it gets really, really stressful. But like the actors admitted, they're like, it actually got really frustrating. Like you can see, because they were getting burns, they were getting cuts. They were really very much ingrained. Like they were method acting without even trying to method act. It's just how they actually made the film.
Yeah. Well, I wrote down in my notes, knowing that Bradley Cooper, like the way that he shadowed and followed and studied a lot of Gordon Ramsay, it comes through a lot in his performance, because especially like what Gordon Ramsay says a lot of times about like he's a big proponent of calling out professionals who should know better when they make stupid mistakes, while also calling out like the real talent, because you can see a lot of that in Adam's character.
Of course, the throwing and stuff and yelling, that was a lot of, I think he had a little bit of Gordon, because Gordon's not like that all the time, but he has to be to a certain, like I think actually watching Hell's Kitchen shows you how he tends to actually be in a kitchen.
Him telling Helene to apologize to the turbot was really giving I'm an idiot sandwich.
Yes, exactly. So many people hate that too, and I'm just like, no, like that's exactly what it really is there. And like shucking oysters is no joke. Now I'm going to start getting into kind of like the notes and everything else, because I have some notes kind of put into everything. 3 years for 1 million oysters does make sense. Bradley Cooper ended up shucking oysters for a total of about 12 hours with filming for that one scene. 12 hours.
Well, shucking oysters is
hard. So hard. And but there's a lot of lines I love in this, because there's things they of course say that I find very interesting and have opinions on, but I really did love the beginning of him. He complained about the eggs. He said they were staring at him like the eyes of a dead clown. I can't do justice to that accent, but truly.
No.
And just all the lovely things. Yeah, arrogant prick. He's a chef, because this is very much ingrained in chef culture. And I take that back to like going to what the director said about how like this is an art for chefs. Like you have this passion for it and you push yourself to the point of Michelin star, which is near perfection. I say near perfection for a reason. And you have to be crazy enough to do it. You truly, I mean, and then of course there's plenty of Michelin star chefs, but when you start from nothing, it's really hard to get there.
Yeah, watching this movie definitely for me, I was like, this is not a life for me.
No, it's exhausting. And then I think one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, though, is the Burger King scene.
Well, I wrote that down. Like, what is with this Burger King product placement? And I also
they did use Burger King twice, because
I googled. I'm like, are there Burger Kings in London? And there are. I googled it, but I was like, this is interesting. Okay,
because Michelle is outside of the Burger King before he starts chasing Adam, and then we end up back at Burger King. They only say those 2 times, but it is really interesting
that it's twice,
because we have Helene and Adam going back and forth, and she goes, I prefer to eat food cooked by a proper chef. He says, you don't like people on minimum wage. Mr. Jones, I'm a sous chef. I'm a person on minimum wage. Because that's the other issue with this, is you're putting people in this like very stressful, high-paced, dangerous job.
And then you don't pay them.
And then you don't pay them very well. But then Adam says something, like goes into his rant about Burger King that makes me just smile a little bit. Because it's food for the working class. Excuse me. Justify why it costs $500 more to eat at a place where we work than it does at a place like this. No, because you can't. Because the food here is made with too much fat and too much salt and too many cheap cuts of meat. You just described most classic French peasant dishes. Burger King is peasants doing what peasants do, giving a cheap cut of meat a little style. Goulash, bourguignon, cassoulet, shall I go on? Because that is true.
Yeah.
Not that I'm trying to defend fast food, but
no. But it's when we... It's a lateral step from like food having moral value of like, I guess, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this properly, but I guess we're putting more of like a class value on food where there shouldn't be.
Exactly. And the thing is, like, we do have a class issue with food.
Yeah, because like this was my thing throughout most of the entire movie, where I was like, why are we spending so much money for a plate of food the size of my thumb?
it's frustrating.
I don't understand.
And that's where I struggle, because like I would really love one day to be able to do more with my cooking. I love to cook. I have a level of passion, maybe not enough to be like I don't want to own a restaurant, or anything like that. I see the passion. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy food. The plates are beautiful. Which is funny because Bradley Cooper said the hardest part was plating the food to be actually look good and not mess up in that fast pace. I can't plate for shit, but I can make food that tastes good.
That's why I thrive. I thrive. I strive to be a very good home cook.
Yes, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I did right though. Are you still a lesbian if you slept with Adam Jones?
Well, that's what her line was just like. I tell myself, Simone, you're a lesbian. Why did you sleep with Adam Jones? That's like, Uma Thurman's a lesbian.
That's like that just random moment of like, okay,
and like because she's not in a ton of this. Like I'm sure they paid her a lot of money to be in 2 scenes.
Yeah, so much money.
That whole beginning sequence of him doing all this, I'm like, so this whole sequence is Bradley Cooper is Nick Fury gathering the Avengers of cooking. Okay,
yeah, that's essentially what's going on.
That's what it was.
He wants his old crew back, really, because that's where he like really loved his life. Yeah. As you can see throughout the big theme through this is like, of course, he's battling addiction, because even when you're sober, you're battling addiction. And for him, because his life started out the way it does, this movie surrounds actually more than anything mental illness.
Yeah.
And that's, I wrote here, I'm like, it makes complete sense. And I'm really happy that Tony had requirements for Adam to be able to do what he's doing. So even though he's an asshole, he's an arrogant, he's a prick, he has to go to therapy. He has to be tested. He cannot just like go off the rails and ruin it for everybody, because the moment he does, that is pulled from him.
Yeah.
And I really love that Tony does that to him, because we have the awkward that I still don't know how to feel about it. But
about Tony being in love with Adam?
About Tony being in love with Adam. It's a little like, I don't know how I feel about that story, but it's such an underlying storyline. I don't focus on it too much.
Yeah.
But then like in an interview, Daniel, the guy who plays Tony, is mentioning how his partner, I guess, was a maitre d' for a restaurant. And he's like, I really love this movie because I played this part and it opened my eyes to my partner and his job. And I was like, wait, is he gay? Like I didn't have that moment. So it makes me curious if a gay man or I say sapphic so much. I'm so used to saying sapphic. Because I say sapphic so much for bisexual. I don't know his sexuality. I don't know what it actually is. But if he has a male partner, does he feel comfortable with playing this role? Is this something that like makes sense in his mind? I'm unsure. I'm a sapphic woman. Yeah. But I've never truly known how to feel about that portion of the movie, though.
It not that it didn't feel. I was gonna say it felt unnecessary, and I think that's a good place to do it, because it feels a little bit like it's thrown in there to give further context for Tony and Adam's relationship. But I don't think we really needed further context for the relationship, because the fact of like the tumultuous relationship of what Adam destroyed when the last time they worked together, that's enough tension to pull through, and why Tony's still a little hesitant the entire time. So I think the fact of that he's also in love with him wasn't needed.
No, I don't actually think we needed that storyline, but and that's why I don't know how to feel about it. I'm like, this isn't really needed, but it's here, but I don't know how to feel.
Like, and it feels a little tokenism, especially in the fact of the queer rep feel both times we have it.
Oh, 100%.
Feels very tokenistic, because you have this that it's an unnecessary plot device that doesn't really do anything to change how we feel about the characters' relationships. And also it's literally a one-off comment by Uma Thurman's character. So it's like it's thrown in there for spice and variety, and to show that yes, queer people can be successful in these fields. Like, great. How about we give them How about we give them an actual story arc and some development?
Because like with Uma, there with her character, it's like, did we have to be told she was a lesbian because she slept with a man?
Like
think about that. We only found out because she mentioned she slept with him.
Yeah, exactly.
So like that plus Tony's love story, it's a little much.
It's like, that if it was that by itself, that absolutely would be tokenism.
Yes.
But it's the fact of both times it happens, it's wholly unnecessary, and all it does is give further context to the character's relationship with Adam where it's not needed. Like, because she can just not like him as a person.
I guess they're also trying to show the womanizer side of Adam, but I'm like, you don't have to insert a lesbian to show the like, and oh, like, he's such a womanizer, he got a lesbian. Like, that's a little much. So like this, but doing this helped me critique the movie more and see that side of it, which I'm very grateful for. Well, because I didn't see that before.
Yeah, because the womanizer thing, especially like I think it was Tony's line, or no, yeah, it was Tony's line when when Adam said he's bringing on Helena as the saucier, and he said like no women because you're gonna fuck her and then it's gonna go badly and that's gonna be the end of it. That alone gives us all the context of womanizer that we need. We didn't need also a lesbian slept with him.
Exactly. And then we have all the things with his therapist, which I do really enjoy because I love when it's, do you have a fear of needles? Well, that question indicates a serious lack of research. Oh my goodness. So not dead. Apparently not. Looks can be deceiving. And then, of course, my favorite one. What happened to your angel face? Oh, crack cocaine in Louisiana.
I have that one too. From that same scene I have, you don't cook, you warm up food in condoms.
And I will say, there, like, obviously, there are, like, sous vide is very useful. It's great.
I didn't realize kind of how new it was in general if she's teaching him how it works for the first time, and this is 2015.
So, just like most worlds, the food world moves fast.
Yeah.
And so, they're now returning to more pans now, I'm noticing. It goes through styles. Because I remember when we watched and binged the entirety of all the MasterChef when we realized it existed. And when you go back that many years, because it's a very old show, and they're talking about how old and outdated like a lava cake was. And now you'll watch it in newer episodes and they'll make it a whole challenge where to make a lava cake. They used to be like, oh, this is old fashioned. It's from the 80s. But then now here in 2020s, they're making it a challenge. So the way it circulates, I love a lava cake. And you have to have skill. Like there's skill involved with that.
I just love chocolate, but
it's just kind of like how things circulate. Like we see it on the internet, how foods suddenly are trending and people are like, this is how you eat a cucumber. Like you're just making a different style. And I saw that in this because that was only a 3-year difference. He was only in Louisiana for 3 years. So you're telling me in 3 years, everybody went from cooking in pans to jumping over to sous vide, and only that was my problem. Is like I've never seen sous vide, and I know it's has to be a method because chefs work like Michelin star chefs worked on this. So seeing like that Reese's restaurant is almost all sous vide and bags and different methods, and their kitchen doesn't look like our kind of kitchen.
Yeah, his whole thing was like it almost kind of looked like that experimental gastronomy shit. That's like it's a cloud foam and the smoke. I'm like, this is too many elements. I want food. My note that I wrote down about like the microplates, everything. I don't want an experience. I want a meal.
And I will say, as we got further along, as they're building more plates, they weren't tiny, like thumb, like at Adam's restaurant.
They were small, though.
They were small, but they did get a little bit bigger. But it's just, and I will say, like I was a fine dining server, but not Michelin star level. We were still to the point of, yes, I was polishing every single thing on the table before anybody got there. We had to make sure the chairs were all even. Everything was even. And when I say even, I don't mean lined up, kind of like where they look like they're all the same. I mean down to measurement. When they pulled out that ruler to measure the distance between the forks, I had flashbacks. Like I've done this stuff.
Oh, that's a real thing?
That's a real thing.
I kind of hate that.
All of it is real for fine dining and higher end dining. Everything, literally, they try to make everything perfect. I need you to watch The Bear just so you have a better understanding. But it's like specifically season 2 Bear, because season 1 of The Bear is a little crazy. But I feel like Burnt walked so that the bear could run. In all honesty, I fully feel that way. Because so many chefs have like watched The Bear and they're like, I have flashbacks and nightmares. This is so accurate. And I'm like, please watch Burnt. Because that's what I got. I of course I'm on IMDb looking at all these different things, and I start seeing that reviews are like, it's just too cliche, and I'm like, Michelin star chefs worked on this. It is literally as authentic as you can get in a Michelin star kitchen, and you're calling it cliche.
This is why I am so glad that the areas that I've worked in, mostly when they're involved in television and movies and media, they're almost always highly satirized, so I don't get like this. I'm like, because like the thing that comes to mind for me is like when I used to be a teacher, like Abbott Elementary, like it's close, but like not quite the way teaching works, and like I don't have that kind of level of like PTSD reaction. I'm so happy.
I was actually disappointed, like with The Bear, not seeing the server side more because they don't show it enough, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's why I like watching movies about servers so much because I've lived that life, but I've also been there for a remodel. Like I've been there for a remodel of a fine dining kitchen. It takes so much fucking longer than it should. I've been around, like I've done all of this, like folding linens and because we didn't roll silverware for that. The silverware went on the table. I've had to crumb tables. Do you even know what that means?
Is that when you scrape the crumbs off
Yes.
that seems like a normal phrase.
Crumb table. I've told people like about steps of service and things like that. Like when I worked in it, they're like, "What do you mean crumb a table?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do I mean?"
Scrape the crumbs off the tablecloth.
Oh, but you had to do it a very specific way.
Yeah.
Because we actually had little dishes and little towels that were like soaked in hot water that were on the dishes, and you had to come up and do it in a certain pattern. The food had to be placed a certain way because you can't backhand a guest, and they're not customers, they're guests. You can't backhand a guest. You have to hug the guest. Like there's so many intricacies that go into it.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Like if you ever go to a fine dining place, like for a nice dinner, pay attention to what the servers are doing. I guarantee you're going to notice different intricacies that they all do. Specifically in fine dining. Because once you reach a certain point, no one cares anymore. I'm going to be honest. I've worked in small family places where it's jeans and a t-shirt, and I've worked in fine dining where I had a uniform and a full apron, not just an apron around my waist, neck and everything. They had us in like farmer getup almost. It was like jeans and plaid shirts and these like brown aprons, but like full aprons. Which makes me think about how people feel about the Michelin thing. Because yes, Michelin retires. These are the same company.
The tire company, yeah.
It's the tire company. They started that to sell more tires because then you travel.
Yeah.
Like
makes sense.
But now it's like a huge thing because I really did love when we have I love her accent. I cannot do it justice. It is the book, Yana, the Bible, but the way she says it.
The Bible.
Just it scratches an itch.
It's such a good Irish accent.
In that world, yes, it is. It is the Bible. You want those stars. You want those stars more than anything.
This is the game. I was just thinking the closest I have ever come and ever will come to working in a fine dining kitchen was playing the Gourmet Chef Nintendo DS game.
Oh my God. Have you ever seen the videos of chefs playing Overcooked?
I have not.
Please Google that after this and just tell.
What's really sad is now I have a strong urge to start playing Cooking Mama again.
You're welcome.
I have my DS. Like I have it. I own every Cooking Mama DS or 3DS version. That is a flex.
I only have like a couple more lines that I really loved. It was tell me what frightens you. Spiders, death. Like he's so straightforward and sarcastic at the same time.
Yeah.
5 o'clock always the worst time for thinking things. And I'm like, that is such an indie film type line, but at the same time, very accurate. Because throughout all of it, it is very interesting watching. Because I think the only time I am okay with like the whole like sexuality thing is when Tony realizes Helene has feelings. And he's like so distraught for her. He's like, oh, honey, no. I did like that moment because he had an understanding of that, of like, oh, I know what it is to fall in love with this asshole. Because he is. And I will stand by that sometimes you need to watch a character be absolutely horrible for them to get better. We were seeing he thought he already had his rock bottom. This was his actual rock bottom.
Yeah.
Because it's mentioned in the movie that he possibly is dealing with OCD. Which can be like issues of like feeling that you have to be perfect and the perfectionism.
Yeah.
He doesn't feel worth it if he isn't perfect. The star he so desperately wants and the chef culture that exists combined with his mental health and sobriety create the Adam Jones that we see in this movie. He's not meant to be likable.
No.
Which is another thing you see in reviews. He's an asshole, chef. Like they say it's too cliche because the chefs are assholes, but then you actually look at the chef world and you're like, okay, but why are all the chefs assholes? And I'm like, long hours, low pay, dangerous workplace, high-paced. Like it creates it's literally the habitat of an asshole.
Yeah, well, cliches are cliches because more often than not they're true.
Exactly.
A cliche only becomes bad when it's overused and used improperly. Like if he were this asshole chef and this movie was a rom-com, that would be a bad cliche.
Exactly. See, they actually show so much of it, though. Like, you have Max, who's getting out of prison.
Yeah.
And he cut off a guy's nose because he plated the fish upside down.
You don't do that.
You don't do that.
No.
You don't do that in a Michelin star kitchen. I still don't believe he should cut the nose off, but he did put it on ice.
Yeah. Okay, that's always important.
He put it on ice. Because he says that. He's just like, I was the guy that made sure to put his nose on ice before the paramedics got there. Like, he was so proud of himself. He's like, I still made sure he was taken care of. And I'm like, you still cut the guy's nose off.
Yeah.
But then he's like the calmest in the kitchen.
He really is, yeah.
So I have to know, how did you react to Michelle's revenge?
I was surprised.
Okay.
I probably shouldn't have been because I think.
Oh no, I gasped the first time I watched that happen. I was just like, oh god.
Because in the back of my mind, like looking back on it, in the back of my mind when he said all is forgiven, I'm like, is it though? And I did write down, Michelle, how could you, all in all caps, with then followed with, that's some long game revenge.
That is
Damn.
long game. Because like, why was he at that Burger King?
Yeah, but like this is also a thing of like, I will go into this when we talk about the scores and everything, but part of the pacing that I as I watched this, I was like, it's hard to tell exactly how long everything is taking.
Mm-hmm.
So how long was he working in that kitchen waiting for this to happen?
Because like the montage style of like trying to like they try to show the passage of time,
but it still makes it's unclear.
It's very unclear of how long it's actually taking, because waiting for because the Michelin Men, they only go out at certain times, I think.
Yeah.
Waiting for that, preparing for that, like it's not just a simple, okay, we did this in a month, we'll still be here. Like that's not how it works. You don't know when it's going to happen. So we do not know the actual passage of time. I wish they had shown it a little bit better, but I'm going to assume that London weather doesn't exactly help with that.
Yeah, I would say that we're not really seeing the passing of seasons in London. It's pretty much it's
the same most of the time, apart from snow.
Cold and wet and less cold and wet. That's basically all you got.
I also feel like it's the long game, and Michelle's an asshole, but like this is the narrative that chefs are assholes. He really did, because he got paid. He got paid to do the long game.
Yeah, he did.
But Adam,
to be fair, like what Adam did got him shut down.
Exactly.
This did not. This was not exactly comparable.
Adam set a pack of rats out in his restaurant and then called the health inspector on him and shut him down, which is so much worse in my opinion.
Well, it is, but it's also a case of we can see a clear pattern of Adam doing that because basically if things didn't go the way he wanted when he invited Simone to the Langham, that probably would have gotten the restaurant closed.
Yeah, he almost closed another restaurant.
Yeah.
To try to get his next star. And I'm one of those people. I love when we make a movie about an unlikable character, because I have a firm belief that movies are not just something that we watch to enjoy.
Yeah.
We also watch movies to feel different emotions. Like, but I'm also a horror fan. So
yeah,
I see movies sometimes different than other people do. Because I will watch a movie all the time to be in, like, to have enjoyment and to enjoy myself and for entertainment. But there are a lot of times that like, no, I'm going to watch this movie because it gives me a certain feeling and I want it. Like, it makes me think of Tick, Tick, Boom.
Yeah.
Tick, Tick, Boom is a sad movie.
Yes, it is.
And for some odd reason, I only watch it when I'm sad.
Oh.
Like, other people turn on sad music when they're sad. I watch Tick, Tick, Boom. And I should stop.
Well, yeah, there's some movies that you turn on specifically when you're sad, because like it's you want to commiserate it rather than making up for the feeling, you want to commiserate in it. So it's like sad movies when you're sad, or movies that purposefully make you angry.
Yeah, like this one doesn't really make me, like, it makes me angry, but only in the fact of like all the crazy stuff that these people do to each other. But with someone who struggles with mental illness and sees just how bad a person can be due to their mental illness, it makes me feel a little bit better about myself.
Yeah.
Because I have definitely made some horrible decisions while unmedicated and not in therapy, which I'm not either of those things right now, but I'm making better decisions in my life.
Fair.
But I've definitely made some horrible decisions while working in this type of life.
Yeah.
So like, because with that, I will say that this culture also breeds some pretty bad stuff. Not that I didn't have problems with alcohol before I worked in fine dining, but my alcoholism got worse.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of restaurants, when you work for restaurants like this, they do something for you at the end of the shift called just a shift drink, because there's alcohol. Like, we're done working, everybody's ready for a drink. But they reached a point, the restaurant I worked at the time would just keep doing it every night. I was full time. And then, of course, after you have that drink, my kid's already at home in bed. It's 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Or 12 o'clock at night. And so then everybody's like, well, let's go to the bar. The bar was next door. Like, oh, I got cash tips. I'm going to go, all right, I can spend a little bit of my cash. Like, credit card tips will be on my paycheck. And then I'd get drunk. And so I still work in F&B, but
in a different situation.
when you guys hear this, I'll be over a year sober, but I'm
Yeah.
almost a year sober at recording. So like I see a lot of my own struggles somewhat in Adams.
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's technically a comfort movie for me.
Fair.
Because it's relatable, but not
Yeah.
to like a full extent, just on
Mhm.
some of it. Like the lines itself, a lot of the things that they say. I've never been as bad as Adam, I don't think, on certain things. I've
Yeah.
never injected anything. My problem was alcohol.
Mhm.
So,
That's
which I'm
okay,
pretty
that's
sure he
good.
got drunk. Like that's how he used, so to speak. It looked like he
Yeah.
just got really drunk. I do find it interesting that he goes to Reese
Cuz
of
it's
all
someone that
people.
cuz it's someone that I feel like he already didn't care about his opinion of him.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why he went to Reese, and like it's someone who's doing well, but he already knows that the guy kind of hates him.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want anyone that he cares about to see him like that. Which that part made sense to me. So much of this movie, I'm like, if this is accurate, which it seems to be,
It's
I
very accurate.
can see why drugs and alcoholism are a problem in this community.
There has actually even been before, I'm sure it's still somewhere on the internet, where Gordon Ramsay has gone into his own restaurants and swabbed the back of the toilets for cocaine.
Oof.
Because that's one of the like most used drugs, apart from weed. But I don't count
Yeah.
weed because weed's legal in so many places. Cocaine
Yeah.
is not.
Yes, it is.
It's tested positive in his own restrooms and his own restaurants for cocaine.
Mm.
And I have seen many servers across the board, not just fine dining, who have had the issue because it's so fast paced.
Yeah.
You have to
Alright.
keep up. You have to keep up. Like Adam talks to when he's talking to Helene, telling her, he's like, it was the best time of my life, but he was working 20-hour days, maybe sleeping for 4 hours. That doesn't mean he was always sleeping those 4 hours.
Yeah.
He was injecting, he was snorting, he was doing all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it really interesting because it shows the culture. And then, of course, reviews say, because it's not very highly rated. Not many people are actually big fans of this movie, which kind of annoys me. But I've never been a chef.
Yeah.
I've been adjacent to this world. I have many, many friends who have been amazing chefs in my life because I was very, very vegan when I was working in fine dining. And I had the one grill chef would always make me these delicious trumpet mushrooms that he would saute and cook up for me, because everybody else would be eating like leftover steak and burger, like all the other stuff, like because we had this like really big bone-in pork chop too, and everybody's eating all that up and I had nothing other than french fries. So he would always make me these delicious mushrooms. So some chefs out there are absolute, like they're more like Helene and more like the other guys, because the only people that aren't from his old life, apart from the other staff in the kitchen, is the kid that he gets from the street food. The street food looked delicious during this.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
Absolutely
the street food, I love street food. Was him and Helene.
Yeah.
Everyone else was his old crew. I mean, of course, Reese has his own restaurant, but he wanted to still do it with the people that he had before. He wanted to get back to that perfect feeling he had under Jean-Luc with these people around him, and he tried to recreate that, and it failed.
Yeah.
Until he finally realized, I've got to make changes in my life.
Yeah.
Because that's the answer. Changing yourself, not what's around you.
Exactly.
So, does it make more sense why I like this movie now?
No, it absolutely does. Like, the more you talk about it, I'm like, I get where you're coming from a lot of this. And I'll say a lot of my critiques and stuff of the movie, that it's like, a lot of it's I would say the clichéness of this movie, from my perspective, because I don't know anything about the chef aspect of it.
Yes.
The clichéness of this to me was the story trajectory is very predictable.
Extremely, yes.
Extremely. Like this is a textbook hero's journey story, basically.
I mean, it is from Harvey Weinstein's company, but I mean,
it's,
you get what you get when it's from 2015.
This is true. But like, yes, I would say for me, that was where a lot of the cliche stuff came in. I'm like, I'm watching this. I'm like, yep, that tracks where we're going with this. And like, oh, they're going to hook up. That's clearly what's happening here. And I basically, and like, oh no, the night that you've been beaten up, that's when the Michelin men come. Of course, that's how that works, like stuff like that. So like, it's, I would say this for me, the story structure and the story beats was the very cliched part, because that's the part that I recognize. And
now you have all the other context of everything else you saw, and you're like, oh,
yeah. But something that I didn't look up the age difference between Bradley Cooper and the actress who played Helene, but for Alicia Vikander being his ex-girlfriend, there's a 14-year age gap between those two actors.
Yeah, it's not good.
I was like, there's an 14-year age gap, because of course there is. Like,
of course there is. It's French.
It's French. It's French. Well, also, to be fair, because I couldn't quite tell what accent she was speaking with, because she's Swedish.
Yeah.
And something
I think
learned
it's meant to be French.
something I've learned about Swedish actors when they speak English, they sound British, like with the exception of a few vowels.
Yeah.
Because if you listen to like Rebecca Ferguson, she's the same way. Like you'd think she's British, then you hear her say something like, "That's a little off."
I will say that found out in the interviews though that Bradley Cooper was already fluent in French before this role.
Oh.
Well, yeah, he talks in one of the interviews about life-changing roles because the actors who played Helene, I'm bad at names, we already know this.
Yeah.
The two of them actually were in Sniper together right before this.
Okay.
So when he found out that she was going to play Helene, he got really excited because they work really well together. And he actually compared it, like he's like, compared it to his work with Silver Linings Playbook and Jennifer. So he definitely has a really good connection. But I really enjoyed seeing this because I like Bradley Cooper. I think he's a great actor.
I think so
he
too.
does phenomenal work. I mean, who else can play a crazy mechanical-ish raccoon in Marvel and, do well at it? He does such a great job. But then I also really love Silver Linings Playbook. That's one of my favorite movies because I have mental problems. I don't think you can really love that movie unless you've been in that conversation of have you taken this med? Because when they're going back and forth at the table about Klonopin and all the different drugs, I'm just kind of sitting there I feel welcomed.
I've had these conversations.
And so I love that one for that aspect. And just there's nothing better than watching him throw a Hemingway book out the window as well. But he talked a lot about, because he compared some of the scenes of his emotional scenes. He compared it to how it was in that movie with Robert De Niro. How they apparently, in a very emotional scene, had to edit out his crying because he was breaking down so much.
Oh.
But he talks about how he's like, I had all these movies. He's like, I knew this movie, Sniper, and another one, we're going to be, or I think it was Silver Linings Playbook. I know these are going to be life-changing. And he's like, let me do this other movie in between to kind of he thought this was going to be a palate cleanser, just a fun role to play. And then he's like, then he gets into it and he's like, no, this is life-changing. And he's like, we don't plan when these things happen, but I'm glad it did. So all of the actors in this were very much especially him and the girl who plays Helene are no, this was a life-changing role for them. And it changed their viewpoint on so many different things. And I think if more people knew going into the movie how authentic the cooking and everything is, because they really did. They cooked over and over. They cooked these dishes. They're cooking. And the cameras are just going where they can fit and not be in the way. And I think it's beautiful.
One thing that did I was watching the sequence and I was like, okay, this is interesting, was with Helene's daughter and the birthday cake.
Yes.
Because this is my question. Is it realistic for him to be the head chef and also be a pastry chef?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you reach that level to get to executive chef, you truly need to be able to do put yourself in any of the roles.
Okay. So that was just one question I had, but it was the fact of I didn't think he was. I mean, I understand why he said no to giving her the day off or the afternoon off.
That's reality
that's reality,
world.
And I don't think he was rude with the way he phrased it.
Oh no,
because there's definitely worse ways of saying no. But then I didn't quite understand the stare down while he was eating the cake with the kid.
I think that was supposed to just be the kids staring him down, so they're going back and forth. I think it was supposed to come off as playful, but the looks are a little off on their faces.
Yeah, it didn't come across. I think it's probably meant to be a way of endearing you. You can see him being sweet with her daughter, and I was just like, this is weird. I don't have.
She also calls him the ogre, so I think he was playing off of that as well. But beautiful cake though.
Yeah,
I also love Tony standing up to him though, because Helene was obviously upset. Everybody's being there for her, and it's kind of cool because as you watch the movie, you watch the main staff all root for each other and kind of be there for each other and work out their things, and then you just have Adam, who's pissing everybody off.
Yep.
Because the cake was beautiful. I love the cake. I want that cake. It looks so good. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But I did love Tony standing up, be like, make me a fucking cake. He's like, why are you here on your day off? Make me a fucking cake. And he did.
Yep.
So yeah, but the lesson I see in this movie is healing is not linear.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is about.
Exactly. Healing is a process.
So thank you for enduring my torture. I have more for you.
Okay.
Well, I had texted you, and I will stand by this. I hope everybody else kind of goes through this with us. I think it could be a lot of fun. I'll find the episode I'm talking about because I can't remember names and all that. It's just an episode of a cooking thing I watched at some point with Steven. We like watching docuseries and documentaries from time to time. And it's just this chef. I think she works on Top Chef in another country or something like that. think it's Top Chef Australia or Top. It's something with Top Chef. I just
Okay.
can't remember her name. She's gorgeous. But she starts traveling around visiting different places. And so I
Okay.
told you that I think that this movie and that episode are like a prerequisite for the menu. Because now you've got the chef kind of part of understanding the kitchen and like the craziness that is Michelin star chef, especially exclusive, like all that, which you need to be able to watch the menu. And then this other episode that I'm talking about is just kind of cool because she travels to this remote place in, I want to say Eastern Europe, or no, not Eastern, Western Europe. I forgot East and West mixed up. That's how we've been recording for a while.
I thought you said West.
I know, it's West. Let's call it West. And it's literally in the middle of nowhere. They only use the ingredients that they have available to them. You have to ride a boat to get to it. It's extremely exclusive. It's like you got to, of course, be able to travel there, pay the money, all the different things to be able to get to it. And then you sit down to this experience. And they put the weirdest foods in front of you. Like they work. Probably not something I would eat in a lot of situations. But then they make it this whole experience. And it turns like it goes from that like kitchen where you've got this Michelin star chef and it's go, 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 go. And then you turn it and it's like, oh, but you can also have this in this world. And the menu takes both of those concepts and then also kind of includes just the mentality of like how guests act as well when it comes to restaurants and like critics and celebrities and, foodies. It puts all of these people in one room and it's satire, but it's also horror. Okay. So I can't wait to make you watch that, but I needed you to watch this before I can allow you to watch that.
Gotcha. Okay. So my movies don't come with prerequisites, at least.
I needed you to understand my brain.
I do. I definitely
do.
And
I can't explain my brain very well, so
we have a podcast. Give you that's kind of our job.
I know, but you've never seen this side of me.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is you have new Katie lore.
I do. This many years into our friendship, it's a lore drop.
It's a lore drop, and I hope you have enjoyed it at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, you watched it without all this context, so I can only imagine your score.
So, do you want to do scores?
Yeah.
All right. So,
I'm scared.
So, don't be scared. So, again, prerequisite for my pacing score.
Okay.
Besides my thing of like the way the movie is designed, it's hard to tell pacing.
It's in London. We don't know what's happening.
But also another prerequisite for this, in the middle of the movie, I had to stop for 20 minutes because my grandmother called me.
Which is important. You have to answer your grandmother.
So there's a prerequisite of that. But I actually gave this 8s across the board. All 4 categories of character, pacing, personal, and plot got 8s.
Really?
So that's a total of a 32.
That's
out of 40.
Really good.
And like I said, it isn't because it lost like a couple of points because it's, like I said, a more cliche and very predictable story structure.
Cliche is not bad. It's just
cliche is not bad, but it's not subverting expectations. Let's go with that.
Gotcha.
And the characters, they act the way that I expect these characters or these archetypes to act. They do the things that I expect that they're gonna do. There's things that I took issue with, like the tokenism of the LGBTQ characters.
I agree.
And ultimately, the pacing. The pacing is hard to tell, but also I had a break in an hour and 40-minute movie took me like 2.5 hours after phone calls were over. So that's and
I didn't choose a long one.
No, you didn't. But it was okay. It wasn't 2.5 hours, but it was definitely like a little over 2 hours because also I paused to write things down and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I got a 32, and I'll admit, but I think this is going to probably be a case for both of us with the others movies. Without this, this is probably never a movie I would have picked up on my own.
Oh no, I would not expect you to watch this without me.
But I think that's going to be a case of like you wouldn't have even known that What's Up Doc existed if I hadn't.
No, I would have had no idea unless I suddenly went on a Barbra Streisand kick.
Exactly. So I think that the critique of I wouldn't have picked this up on my own doesn't really factor into the score. But overall, it was an enjoyable movie. I definitely get a insight into your mind with the way that this movie is done. I thought despite my thing about I want a meal, not an experience, I thought the shots of the food and the cooking and preparation was very visually striking. I think it did what it set out to do. But yeah, so I think overall it gets a 32 out of 40, which is a solid score.
That's a solid score. I'm surprised. I'm usually worried because I view movies in such a weird way because Steven and I will watch just about anything. unless it has like certain actors in it. You can't get me to watch Tom Cruise. It's not happening.
Yeah, that's fair.
And with that though, like I go from absolutely adoring things like Scream to this, and then over on to things like I'm gonna have you like of course watch The Menu. That's more horror, but it's just the random things that I enjoy. Like I still watch Scooby-Doo for fun. So
nothing wrong with that.
Like it's just it's a we have Ghibli days here too. Like we have Studio Ghibli days with me and my kids where we just watch Studio Ghibli movies all day. My husband and I see things very interesting when it comes to all media, like but especially movies. We think movies, of course, like all media are subjective, but we also have this mentality around it. Like when people really hate on stuff, we're the ones that are sitting there like, but it was good. Like we're those people like, why do you hate this so much? It's good. Like it's hard to get us to not like a movie. Like it's very rare that we don't enjoy what we watch because we try to stay as open-minded as possible when we're watching things.
Especially with a lot of like home viewing with the day and age. Like I feel like when you went into the theaters, it was less likely that if you didn't enjoy a movie, you would leave because you paid money to be there.
Yes.
But with home viewing, if you don't like a movie, you can just turn it off.
And we've done that many times. I mean, I got myself to watch Poor Things, which I don't recommend.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I get what the movie was trying to do. I get what they were trying to create.
Yeah.
I don't think it landed for me the exact way. Other people really love it. Some people really hate it. But that comes with making a movie like that. Let me say my score real quick.
Yeah.
So I gave character, plot, and pacing all 8s. Okay. So that's where I was like, oh my God. Personal, of course, I give a 10. This is one of my favorite movies. I love watching this movie. You can ask Steven. I've watched this probably too many times. He'll come home sometimes and Burton is on the TV because, like I said, it's a comfort movie, which is so funny that something that is so chaotic once again brings me comfort. But it's 30, which makes it 34 out of 40 for me.
Yeah, the difference between our picks of movies, like my last one was What's Up Doc, is a screwball comedy from the 70s. The next movie we're watching is Beaches.
Which is completely different, right?
From everything we've been watching so far.
Yeah.
So that's it's not a romance. It's a beautiful movie about the powers of friendship.
Oh. See, you're laughing through that. So I'm like, what's gonna happen?
Well, I'm laughing about other things. I'm laughing more about the absurdity of our difference in movies. If I was gonna laugh about the content, it'd be more a case of like a
Oh. Well, because like we have of course enjoyed so much our shows, and like this is our second movie, my first pick, and we already know we met through books. So reading is such a weird thing with us because it's so funny because we'll read some of the same stuff, but like not everything.
Yeah, like we had our reading tastes are a Venn diagram.
Yes, exactly, and I think it's the same with our TV shows.
I would agree.
Movies. This is us freshly getting into another genre. No, not genre.
Media style?
Media format. Thank you. We're going into another format of media, and I'm really excited to see where this continues to go because I have my things in mind of like just a couple things I want to show you that I really love, but then after that I'm like, what do I make you watch?
Yeah, well, because I think movies especially because TV we already had a prerequisite of having each of us watch the other shows even before Bob's and Once before the
podcast. But like now we're actually watching how many shows of the same shows?
Yeah,
too,
exactly.
That we discuss on a weekly basis.
Exactly, it's much easier with movies. We didn't have as much of that because I think we understood because I'm more picky about movies than you are in general when it comes to genres.
I say that
and stuff.
With love.
Of course, and because I know this about myself because I know like but the thing of me like being told I should watch something and then deciding I will never do this for no reason other than someone told me that I should watch it. That's not a new concept. There's like I was like that in childhood.
I love that about you.
Like to this day, my dad cannot get me to watch The Music Man. I've just decided I don't. I also am not the biggest fan of that movie or the musical in general.
That's like me in Top Gun. I think I've seen it, but I'm never gonna watch it again.
Yeah, like I'm just like there's nothing you can do. Like they're like, oh, we're gonna watch The Music Man. I'm like, cool. I'm gonna be upstairs. Not watching that with you. It's like with movies because I think because a TV show for me, like if I can give it a try. And like, and that's always a case of like, I can watch it's a very low time commitment of it's, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, whatever. And I can try it for an episode. And if I don't like it, then that's fine. But then with movies, it's usually an hour and a half to 2 hour time commitment for something that I'm like, I'm unsure if I'm going to like, but this is going to sound completely different from anything else that I've been saying about how I am with movies. I started watching, cause I kept seeing clips on TikTok. I'm like, let me just find these things. I'm just like, so curious. I started watching, Flowers in the Attic, The Origins. It was a movie series that Lifetime did.
Really?
Yeah.
I would watch that.
It's based on the last one that came out after VC Andrews was, I think, after VC Andrews passed away. It's
Okay.
like it's the story of like of the parent of like the parents, like Olivia, like the grandma.
Who was not traumatized by that as a child?
I didn't find out about it until I was a teenager, luckily.
Oh, my grandmother, when I was like 12, tried to give me all my late aunt's VC Andrews books.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I was like, I don't want these, but somehow
I'm curious
still ended up reading Flowers in the Attic.
Yeah, I'm curious to read them now, but like having watched I started it's a series of 4 like 88-minute movies, whatever. That the thing I can say about it is I'm gonna keep watching it, even though it's the main critique I have of it is the acting is Lifetime movie style acting.
Oh, yeah.
So like that's the only critique I have of it. In what is otherwise a really interesting story, but the acting is gonna be. But this will be good for you. The only place you can get it for free is on Hoopla.
Oh, I love that. I have Hoopla on my TV.
There you go. Because like I think that people claim like, you get it from like the Lifetime Movie Club. I'm like, I looked there. They didn't actually have it.
I need to find the Librarian movies because those were TNT, and I don't have cable. Nor do I want to download another app. So I'm like, must find the library because that Noah Weil, and they're making another show. They're making a new show, and I'm like, if Noah Weil doesn't have a cameo, I'm burning the place down. You can't make a show and not have the original librarian. So yeah, who knows? If you haven't seen those, maybe I'll make you watch those. Maybe. They're horrible, lovely, wonderful TV movies, and I grew up on them.
Yeah.
So,
but there's a difference between like so bad, but it's nostalgically good.
That's the librarian is one of those things. It's really cool because of course there's a librarian, but he's not like the Doctor where he's an alien, but he's special. And the librarian is very important, and he goes off and finds. There's a vampire at one point.
He's mysterious and important.
And it's also Noah Weil.
Yeah,
which you're gay, but still, I love Noah Weil, and he's
I understand it. Like,
have you seen the man?
Again, just because I'm a lesbian doesn't mean I don't understand when men are conventionally attractive.
The thing is, though, I think he's more attractive now in the pit than he's ever been.
I think because it's the beard.
It's got to be the beard. I have issues. Me and beards, man.
Don't we all?
Just a little. But no, I'm glad that you enjoyed this. Now everybody now has an insight to the craziness that is my brain.
Yep.
While I have no want to be a Michelin star chef or work in a fine dining kitchen or anything like that, I really love seeing a tidbit of the world, other side of the world that I've lived, because I've lived the other side of that. And seeing what goes on in that side, like I love it. I don't know why. I just love it. It's fascinating to me.
That's fair.
So thank you for watching this. I really am happy that I could make you watch something because you don't watch anything I tell you to.
Because we've established I have the persistent demand avoidance.
Look, I'm still just so happy you started watching The Pit because me and Sammy were going back and forth about it, and I'm just like, don't tell Lauren to watch it. She won't. I literally said, don't even tell Lauren. She won't watch it. And then I get the text of, I started The Pit. And I was like, oh my God.
And that was a case of, like I had like an inkling of like it had been mentioned in my peripheral.
By my mother.
And I think I had overheard some episodes, but it was a case of I was having trouble sleeping. I was having stomach issues, and I wasn't going to be sleeping for a while. And I needed something that was... that I was like, I had started a Grey's Anatomy rewatch, but I'm like, this isn't really hitting the way I want it to, because it wasn't the characters, it was like the medical drama chaos that I wanted to watch. So that was where The Pit came in, and I watched like 6 episodes in one go.
I cannot tell you how excited I am for every third. It's back to like my Agatha All Along days.
Yeah,
but I find it really funny that it's me, you, and Sammy doing it again. We're doing it over again.
There's only 2 episodes left, though, unfortunately.
Don't tell me that. I don't want to be sad. I need this to be a weekly thing for the rest of my life to give me joy.
Weren't they already renewed for season 2?
I think so. Ironically, I saw somewhere that the people who made ER are like coming for them, and I'm like, dude, theirs is better. Don't be mad.
It's like you don't own the rights to all shows set in an emergency room.
If so, go after Grey's Anatomy, I guess. I don't know. I felt the same though. Like that's how I first described The Pit. Was it very much feels like everything I wanted out of Grey's Anatomy and didn't get.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it, people.
By the time this is out, I think this is coming out in 2 weeks. Yeah, it's coming out.
So yeah,
coming out in 2 weeks. So by the time this is out,
it'll be done.
It'll be done.
But then you can binge the whole thing, and it is in real time. So if you start in the morning,
it'll feel like you were in this shift.
you will feel like, God, I always like we're actually planning on doing that whenever all the episodes are out and we have a day that we can kind of chill and have it on the TV while we're like cleaning and doing chores. We fully are prepared to like have a pit marathon to like really take it in, because it is also very fast paced. So I feel like maybe Burnt, like you said, Burnt is the pit of chef stuff, I guess, because it's very authentic.
Thank you all for listening. Join us back at our regularly scheduled time to talk more about all things Once Upon a Time and Bob's Burgers. Don't forget to like, rate, and follow the podcast wherever you listen so you can be notified every time we publish a new episode. Follow us at OBDYK_pod on Instagram and Blue Sky. And if you'd like to join our Patreon, you can find the link with more details in our show notes.
This has been an episode of Okay, But Did You Know? A TV and media podcast. It was hosted by Katie and Lauren and edited by Katie.